Hey, Rick,
Yeah,
has anybody filed down on your ward?
yeah. Guy that either owns or co-owns a theater.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
I don't know. Does he own the whole theater or just a partner?
I I have no idea.
Hmm. Damn, are we on the right screen?
Apparently not. Oh, there's Anthony.
Well, if we're not on the right one, neither is he.
Yeah.
We'll go down together.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. Let's call this meeting to order. City of North Kansas City, Missouri, regular council meeting and motion to close part of the meeting, January 5th, 2021. Call a roll.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Tull?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Here.
Councilmember Stewart?
Present.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Councilmember Clark to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance while all others remain silent.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item is the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Tull?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
And Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
8-0, motion carried.
Thank you. The next item is comments from the public. Ms. Nakahodo, is there anyone from the public who is asking to be recognized to speak before the council?
If there's anyone joining us this evening, please use the raise hand or *6 or *9 on your phone to be recognized at this time. Mr. Berlin, at this time, no one is indicating that they would like to speak.
Thank you. The next item is the consent agenda, comprised of approval of minutes of work session of December 15th, approval of minutes of the regular council meeting of December 15th, approval of the minutes of the special council meeting of December 29th, and reappointment of Byron Spencer to the Planning Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yes.
8-0, motion carried. Number 10, funding agreement, Burlington Station Chapter 100 application, resolution number 21-003.
Thank you. The city has received an application from Revive Capital Development 3, to be known hereafter as the applicant, in relation to constructing a 212-unit apartment complex at 505 East 18th Avenue, the property currently occupied by AMF Pro Bowl Lanes, for an economic development incentive authorized by Chapter 100 of the Missouri statutes. There are costs to the city associated with executing a Chapter 100 redevelopment plan, and it's appropriate to be approves a resolution authorizing the city to enter a funding agreement with the applicant. The approval of the funding agreement in no way obligates the city council to approve the Chapter 100. It will simply allow city staff and the developer to finalize the Chapter 100 plan for further council review and possible approval at a meeting on a later date. So staff does recommend approval of the funding agreement with the understanding that it's not in any way a final decision by the council. At this time, I would like to call on the legal counsel for the applicant, David Francais of Stinson.
Eric, thank you. I hope everyone can hear me. I'll just stop for a minute and confirm that everybody can hear me speaking now.
We do.
Okay, great. Thank you. I always get nervous about that, not knowing how to mute or unmute on these things sometimes. So want to thank you all for the opportunity to present to you tonight and to present for your consideration the approval of the funding agreement. As Eric said, Burlington Station is a 212-unit apartment project that will be on the site of the existing North Kansas City Pro Bowl. Our client has that property under contract and would propose to construct a 4-story 212-unit apartment complex. You can see some of the images from our design work that has been completed now on that first slide. Kim, if we could have the next slide, and I will ask Michael Knight, who is the principal of Revive Capital Development, to introduce the team and give you a little bit of sense about who the developer is.
Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Hi, this is Michael Knight. Good evening, sir. My name is Michael Knight, and I am the principal of Revive Capital Development. And just a little background on our group. We've been in the Kansas City area now for about 8 years. I live in Kansas City. We focus on urban renewal projects in Kansas City and St. Louis. A couple projects here that we just recently finished within the last couple of years was the Commerce Tower project in downtown Kansas City. That's on the corner of 10th and Main. That was a conversion of a 30-story former Commerce Bank world headquarters into a 355-unit apartment complex off the Kansas City streetcar line. And then more recently, we've completed 2 historic rehabs in St. Louis in the Washington Avenue Historic District. That's about 250 apartments between those two projects. Again, that was a historic rehab utilizing state and federal historic tax credits, a tax abatement, and an urban grocery store. So some of the things we like to do with these projects are try to bring in things, at the right place, right time, kind of a strategic investment. So at the Commerce Tower, we were able to bring in Park University's downtown campus and an early childhood learning center that occupies about 20,000 square feet. And the project we recently completed in St. Louis, we brought in a 20,000 square foot grocery store, the first grocery store in that neighborhood in about 20 years. So we're trying to do responsible investment and development, and we're very excited about this project. It's a 4-story new construction project, secured parking, amenities, fitness center, indoor and outdoor dog parks, some walking trails, some outdoor spaces, obviously a swimming pool, and just excited to be working on this project in North Kansas City. We've been looking in North Kansas City for quite some time, and we finally have an opportunity to hopefully do something here. So if you have any questions or comments, more than happy to try to answer those or address those. Other than that, I'll pause for questions if there are any.
I have a question.
So Councilmember,
thanks, Michael. I will.
So Mr. Ponce, would you like to complete the presentation and then take questions with that?
However the council is most comfortable, if they would like to ask questions now, we'd be happy to answer them as we go, or we can complete the presentation. It's entirely up to the council how they wish to proceed.
Okay, so I think Mr. Clevenger was first, and then let me see, Mr. Saper, and I don't know if there was anybody else.
Just a couple of quick questions. First of all, about the property tax abatement, it is the highest of the city policy, 75% for 10 years, correct? And so a couple of questions. I think in the presentation, or what I read, was talking about affordable rents below, the regular market rate rent for people making $20 an hour or less. That's something I wanted to confirm, because as far as the affordable housing option. And then you'd spoken about in other areas where you'd brought in a grocery store next to one of your developments. I wanted to get your thoughts on what you thought, if it's a possibility to bring something in, next to this development as a grocery. So hypothetically, that's my questions.
Michael, do you want to jump in on the second question, and I'll do the rents question afterwards?
Sure, that'd be fine. So if everybody has that site plan slide, what the site is, a 10-acre site in total. This development only occupies about 6 acres of that. That leaves us a 4-acre pad site directly to the west of this project. So one of the things that we're doing is obviously there'll be a subdivision of the lots so that the multifamily is separate. But that does allow us to have
Could you maybe, I'm sorry, Michael, but Kim, could you maybe advance 2 slides so people could see the site plan? I think that would be helpful now. So go ahead. I'm sorry, Michael. I just get the slide.
No, that's fine. The slide is obviously helpful visually. Is that up?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So this gives us an opportunity to have a phase 2, which could be mixed use and have some retail components. And I mean, obviously, I'm always a big fan of having a grocery store that you can walk either down the stairs to get to, or across the street to, or just right next door. So I think the biggest thing here is increasing that density. I mean, we've already got a really good walkable neighborhood here. There's things that are happening there. But once we increase that density and that population, that opens up the possibilities to quite a few things. So it's been my experience, if we park 300 people next door, not to mention all the other projects that are happening in the area, that really does open up the options to possible grocery stores and coffee houses and mixed use and mixed workspaces and additional residential units. So we're definitely open to entertaining any and all those options. once we increase the density of the neighborhood, obviously that'll make it a lot easier to attract some of those types of tenants. Grocery stores need, low rents, long-term leases, and ramp ups for stabilization. So they're a tricky tenant to work with, but if you find the right operator, it's definitely a huge amenity to the project and to the neighborhood.
And then, Councilman, on your second question, the average rents by unit type, the studio apartments average $790 a month. The one bedrooms average $1,100, and the two bedrooms average $1,400. And from the standpoint of HUD and the average median income in the area, both the studios and the one bedrooms can be afforded by somebody in the $35,000 to $40,000 a year range of income, which is $18 to $20 an hour. So,
Councilmember Clevin, was that all your questions? Okay, Councilmember Saper.
Related to the pricing of the units, I'm still reluctant to consider projects that don't include actually low rent housing as part of it, or in some ways subsidized housing. We've never really made that any kind of priority in North Kansas City, and I think it's time that we start doing that.
Councilman Clevenger, we are applying under your existing economic development policy and trying to meet the requirements of that. I do believe that certainly the studio apartments at $800 per month would qualify under anyone's calculation as being for people below 80% of median income, which is typically how HUD defines low income housing. So I'm not suggesting that we are satisfying your requirements, because we don't know exactly what those are, but I would tell you that we are working to make this project high quality and with rents below what other similar projects are charging, both in the immediate area and in the metro area. So we're working at that. So,
any other questions or comments at this time? Councilmember DeLong.
So it might be kind of early, but I feel like at least on some other projects, you approve them and then you get to the end, and by the time the application's done, you maybe get a little shocked sometimes at the actual abatement amount. Do you have any idea of the dollar figure of what you're estimating this abatement to be worth?
The abatement will be in the range for the 10 years. And we have committed that the existing property generates about $92,000 a year in total taxes. And we have committed to the city that we won't generate less taxes than that from the site as a whole. So the abatement works out to be about, and I'm going to give you an estimate, but it's about $175,000. Yeah, about $175,000 a year for 10 years, and we haven't present valued that, but I would tell you that we show in our pro forma that we've submitted to the city, and your financial consultants have reviewed it, that our return on this investment is over the 10-year average is sub 5.5%. So. On cash. So it is not a rich project by any stretch of the imagination.
Sorry if I missed that. I didn't see that in our document. I don't know if that's something you submitted beyond what we're looking at now, or if I just missed that. But so you're saying though, the minimum. I
anticipate I'm sorry, Councilman. We anticipate the full presentation of the financials at the hearing when you consider the Chapter 100 abatement. Okay. Not just when we're considering the funding agreement today. So.
Yeah. I just didn't want you to get $30,000 in, and we end up rejecting it here based on some of the basics.
Sure.
I figure save everyone the time and money there if we can't even, if we're not close. But you're saying at minimum you're planning on hitting what they pay now. That's what you said, correct?
we have committed to that, and that we would pay pilots to achieve that level during the term, and we will meet and discuss that with the school district. One of the things that you will be, by this authorization day, we have not talked to the school district because we didn't want to be presumptuous and do that before the city council had approved the funding agreement.
Perfect. Thank you. That answers what I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
I believe in when I was reading the memo that part of the reason for asking for the 75% abatement is to attract capital to the project. And when you said a 5.5% cash on cash return, that makes sense. The one wrinkle that I know is in play in North Kansas City is the opportunity zone angle, so that most of the people who contribute to your capital stack won't be paying any capital gains on anything they sell to buy into this, which is a huge incentive. And I think something that should be considered in the final, how much of an abatement do we land on, because this is an opportunity zone situation where you're going to be doubling your basis. You're going to be getting all these tax incentives on top of the 5.5%. So it is something to consider. I'd love to see when you present the financials, if you factor that in and what that looks like as well.
Councilman, it's always dangerous for the liberal arts major to respond to your question, but I said 5%. I think we're actually cash on cash below 5%. With the abatement, our returns. Trying to find it, sir. So I give you the. It starts at about 4% and gets up after 10 years to about 5.7 or 5.9. So it's not quite 5%, but a little over 5% for the average for the 10 years. And we don't think, and I'll let Mr. Knight reaffirm this, but we don't think we could attract capital without the opportunity zone opportunity here. It's really the only thing that made this project feasible with the level of abatement we're requesting.
Yeah, I mean, the answer to that question is absolutely. So without the opportunity zone, it wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work.
Okay.
There are not a shortage of deals floating around right now.
Yeah.
Say that again.
I was going to say that, just to be clear, the request for abatement that we have presented on our pro forma is a 10-year abatement, which is, we'd note that, your policy would allow a longer term abatement in compliance with the policy. And we are requesting from that perspective, less than what the policy authorizes. So.
Sure, and which we appreciate. And it does sync up with the 10-year hold period, which makes it a nice round deal. So I'll be looking forward to seeing the financial presentation. So appreciate you guys.
And that's an important point, the opportunity zone. Without it, this wouldn't work. And it also means that we're in the neighborhood for the next decade. So this isn't a build and flip project, which is what you typically see with a new construction product.
Right. That's advantageous for both of us. We got to be good neighbors.
We're going to be neighbors. So let's figure it out.
Any other questions or comments, Bob, before the presentation continues? Councilmember Tull.
I just wanted to echo what Tony and Zach were saying, that I would really like to see going forward in the city as we grow the city, when you get support through taxes to make a small percentage of your apartments, like 5% affordable, just to make sure that when we grow the city for everybody. And I do realize that you're trying to keep your overall rents low, but a small number of apartments like that wouldn't, I don't think would be a super huge ask. Just if we grow responsibly with every new project that we have, would be something I'd like to see if it would work with your numbers.
Understood, and we will include that analysis in the project. It, as we stated at the outset, our goal has been, and we believe we've achieved a goal to be below market on all of our units, below what we see particularly with the quality project, which we'll talk about next. But we do understand the question, and we'll examine it from that perspective with our numbers. So were there other questions, or should we continue?
Why don't you continue?
Okay, thank you. So you saw on the first slide, you saw the picture, the image of the interior and the exterior. You can see on the slide that's currently up, we're showing kind of the mix of units between the levels. The building has balconies or patios, and we think that's certainly a nice amenity. It's also aesthetically more attractive than just a flat exterior on the building. Next slide, please. This shows you the unit, the basic 3-unit configuration. The studio is Unit A. Unit B is the 1-bedroom, and Unit C is the 2-bedroom. And I know it's in your materials, so you can look at it at your leisure, but there's a color coding to show how A, B, and C are mixed on the floors, if that's something of interest to you. Next slide, please. And Kim, you might just pop through, take a few seconds on each slide and just go through the next, this one and the next one. Let's leave that one up. The last slide was showing some of the interior unit concepts and the color palette that has been developed. Revive spends a lot of time looking at the analysis on these projects, trying to be sure that they have something that is attractive, that is fitting and an asset to the neighborhood, and again, something that is attractive for both the consumers. Michael, do you want to add any comments about how you do that in your design work?
Sure. So the simple part of that question is every single project I've ever built or been on a team that I've built, I end up living in it for a little bit. And when you start designing these things based off your interactions, you tend to raise the bar instead of lowering it. And so, you've got to be able to build these things and put your name on them, and then obviously be proud of them and build a quality product. So I think what you'll see here when we get done is we'll have a very nice grounds. We'll have very nice landscaping. We're going to have nice finishes. We're going to have the indoor and outdoor fitness centers. We're trying to do things that are addressing some of the things that exist now based on the current circumstances with, pandemics, where we've got outdoor fitness center equipment. We have indoor, we've got doors that open up to the outside. We've got these walking trails, the outdoor dog parks, so that people can, not just live in an apartment, but actually get out on the sidewalk and, kind of live on site. And our model is really to try to be the value option. Commerce Tower sits on the corner of 10th and Main. We are several $100s a unit cheaper than all of our competition, just a more affordable basis. Same thing goes for St. Louis. We're the most affordable buildings on the Washington Avenue district. And I think you'll see the same thing here when we're done, that we will be the value option and more affordable than the direct competition that exists now, and the competition that, the other projects that are being pursued in the area. So, we build quality projects. We staff them with quality people. We work with Graystar out of Chicago, who's the largest property manager in the country. It's a top-notch shop with high-end finishes that are really geared towards people's, these are their homes. So it's built around community, and we don't shortchange on that. And like I said, we're going to be here for a decade. We want to build something that we're proud of and that we think is a benefit to the community, and, seen that way.
Thanks, Michael. Next slide, please, Kim. So just to reiterate what Eric had indicated at the outset, today's request is just for approval of the funding agreement that allows us to proceed to work with your staff to do the final analysis. We have already submitted to your financial consultant the pro formas and the information. So we will move forward then. And this also allows us to contact the school district to discuss the project and the requested level of abatement. As I said before, our ultimate request is for a partial tax abatement to make the project feasible. We have done the analysis, Councilman. I know you asked about this, and but we will be investing $32 million into this project, and it is our belief that based on cash flows at the outset, the project is underwater by well over $10 million and so we are really counting on the opportunity zone as the way to make this project work. We're very thrilled that happens, because otherwise this project just there isn't a way to make it viable at the quality levels we're doing. Certainly with the 10-year abatement we've requested, the cash and cash returns are sub 4% without abatement. So we are asking for a 75% abatement for 10 years, which is consistent with the city's policy and less than the maximum authorized or allowed by the policy. Next slide, please. Some of this I'll go through it real quickly because we've talked about it. We don't project sufficient financial returns cash on cash to make the project viable without the tax abatement and the opportunity zone. And that's because, as Michael said, we are producing a project with a high level of finish and amenities and with rents that are lower than those of other projects. And then we also have the cost of the demolition and remediation of an existing building. We're not building on a greenfield site, so there's additional costs added to the project for that. And we are focusing on attracting tenants with incomes in that $35,000 to $40,000 range, which we identify as a current workforce that is currently not only in North Kansas City, but in downtown Kansas City, Missouri. And we believe that this project can be attractive to both of those workforce groups, and that's who we'll be marketing to and targeting. And as it says, that bullet point, the next bullet point is that we are seeking tenants who want to be part of a walkable area, and part of that is taking advantage of the amenities that the city is creating in North Kansas City, and we see that as something that adds value to this and helps us to frankly swallow an investment, which, as I said, will be several $1 million underwater on day one. But that's why the opportunity zone works, and that's why the 10-year hold works, is it gives us a chance to heal that and turn it into a viable project. Next slide, please. So with that, you can kind of see the images there of the style. We think it's an attractive building, and we welcome any further questions and would ask for your approval of this resolution tonight so that we can move this project forward and come back to you in the future with the full economic analysis, with the full project analysis, and with the having met with the school district.
Councilmember Saper and then Councilmember Clevenger.
I'm concerned about some of it, in that you're talking about having a pool, you show that, business center, things like that. I guess my interest is in leveraging already existing facilities, such as the North Kansas City YMCA and others. So we're not duplicating that and actually not making an insular island within North Kansas City. We want to make it North Kansas City where people are going outward into the community, taking part into what's there, and leveraging the fixed assets we already have. That's it.
Councilmember Clevenger.
Just a quick question. We've also got the 18th and Swift parking with the 18th and Swift lot project going on. As I understand, do we now have, or we do have a parking agreement or a license agreement with AMF Pro Bowl for those parking spaces during the construction of the 18th and Swift project? Based on this project starting, how does that affect that parking agreement? Because those are spaces that we were counting on using when we were doing the 18th and Swift. I mean, I like the project and I like what it looks like here, but as far as how does that affect the parking, issue that we've got over there during the construction at 18th and Swift?
Councilman, this is Dave France again. We learned of the parking agreement somewhat late in the process, and so what I would say to you is we do understand. We've talked to Eric, and we understand the importance of it, and we are working with your staff to make sure that we're able to make that agreement, make the agreement work while also allowing us to develop our project. So we're working on that, and as part of the the final presentation in which you would approve the Chapter 100 in the future, we will have an answer to that question. But I will be honest with you, we don't have the answer tonight because we haven't figured out how it works exactly. So part of the agreement with the funding agreement is we do know that we have to figure out something that works for both the city and the developer on that project.
Appreciate that. Thank you for being aware.
I'll move to approve resolution 21003.
Second.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper,
No vote.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yes.
And Councilmember Saper, you were voting no, right? You weren't voting at all.
Not voting at all, actually.
Okay. 7-1, motion carried. Number 11. Number 11, consideration of extension of emergency health order.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. On to number 11. On August 18th, the City Council authorized the issuance of an 8th amended order arising from the spread of COVID-19, and the order is set to expire on January 16th. Since that time, the Clay County Public Health Department issued an emergency order whose provisions are stricter than the city's, except in one respect, which has to do with outdoor assembly. The Clay County order does not have an expiration date. Staff seeks direction from council as to whether to have the city issue a 9th amended order prior to January 16th, or to allow the city's current order to expire and continue under the Clay County order. Any questions or discussion? Councilmember Smith.
So my only thought on this one is I would like to see us issue an order that exactly mirrors Clay County with no expiration date, so that if they just decide to end it early without any given reason, as they did with the large gathering order, changing the limits, I'd like to see us mirror there so that if they do cut it off, we could go on without an interruption.
Anybody else have a comment? Councilmember Stewart?
Just that I agree with Jesse on that.
Does somebody have a motion to make?
I move that we mirror Clay County's agreement with no expiration.
Second.
Councilmember Clark.
Wait, I'm sorry. Can I ask a quick question? The original thing that was brought up is because we had something on top of theirs with the 50-person limit. So when we mirror theirs, are we going to extend that part as well? Is that what the motion is, or is the motion just to mirror?
That's a good question. Eric, what is their gathering limit, their outdoor gathering limit? or
They did not refer to outdoor gathering. They referred to indoor gathering, but their order does not really address outdoor gathering, whereas the city's current order says that on any city-owned property, such as a park, there can be no more than 50 people gathered. That's what our order currently states.
I would like to see that persist in this one. It's good.
Continue.
So saying that we move to remove the expiration date, so we don't even have to mirror theirs. Just keep ours as it is, but remove any. Is that what we're getting at?
Well, ours is actually not as strong as Clay County's. So I think what I'm hearing is Clay County's order with the addition of the current city provision regarding outdoor gathering.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yes.
I guess Councilmember Clark will consider that your motion. Councilmember Smith will consider that your second.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Thank you, Lisa.
Is there any further discussion?
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yes.
8-0, motion carried. Number 12, resolution supporting the extension of the Kansas City streetcar system into North Kansas City. Resolution number 21-002.
Thank you. Council members DeLong and Tull have submitted for City Council consideration a resolution supporting the extension of the Kansas City streetcar system from Kansas City to North Kansas City and directing staff to engage with the Kansas City Streetcar Authority to determine feasibility and develop a proposal for implementation. Councilmember DeLong.
I guess it's I'll go ahead and talk it over here. Like he just outlined, it's really just affirming the city council's support of an extension and directing staff to start working with the Streetcar Authority to come up with next steps. It seemed like after that recent presentation from the Streetcar Authority, it seemed like there's some interest. So this seemed like the next logical step to kind of keep the conversation going. I think approving this resolution really gives staff something to have in their staff, and as well as the Streetcar Authority, something to have in their hand when they begin having conversations with other stakeholders to see, what we can do, in terms of funding, grants, and whatnot. So, and really this would be non-binding. If we get to a certain point and this project isn't for us, we could back out. So I think at the previous meeting, we had a lot of good and important questions, and I think passing this resolution really will help get us closer to getting some of those answers. So that's all I have.
Councilmember Stewart, and then Councilmember Farr, and then Councilmember Tull.
Yeah, if of course a lot of you here don't remember it, but we did this once.
Yeah.
When Kansas City first started their line, and I'd love to have it, but at the time, just coming down our Burlington to Armour was, and correct me if I'm wrong, staff, it was around $30 million. Now, and then everybody wanted, well, let's get the price to go all the way to 32nd Street. It doesn't make any sense to stop at Swift. Well, let me tell you, we don't have that money. You look at gaming, we don't have the money to do it. I just don't see, I think it'd be a waste of time. What'd that guy say the other, that was here on how much a mile now for them? And then they tax every business on that route for for the maintenance of that, I guess. And do you think all of our businesses going to want to be taxed just for have the streetcar? I don't think so. It's a heck of a deal if you can afford it. I'd love to have it through us and going to the airport. That'd be a good way to travel. But we don't have that kind of money anymore. Our water plant, and we need money in that gaming fund for, the infrastructure. You just don't have the money.
Councilmember Farr.
I agree with Mr. Stewart. I was on the committee that did this. Not only did they request us to pay for every mile installed in our city, they expected us to keep the upkeep on it at the tune back then of $2 million plus a year that would come from the city just to keep it maintained. I mean, and we're looking at page 79 on here, back to Rick, you know, they want to do residential assessments. You're going to tell all the residents, we're going to raise your taxes because of the streetcar. The businesses are going to get taxed. I mean, it's a fantastic project, don't get me wrong, but I can't see telling everybody that to have this, you're going to have to pay for it. That's all I have to say.
Councilmember Tall and then Councilmember Safer.
I don't think anybody thinks that we can afford to do this all on our own. And just after Tom Jaron came on and spoke to us, Garrett, sorry, Tom. Then it came out that the latest extension that they're doing was 100% paid for with federal grants. They didn't put any money into that. So this is just the first step to start the discussion. I agree, we wouldn't be able to do the whole thing by ourselves. I think if we work hard on it, we can be in a position that we have an application out there when they're looking for projects to fund. I don't think anyone believes we can fund this as a city on our own, especially coming across the river. That's just not feasible. And this is the very, very beginning baby steps of exploration. So you're right, we couldn't afford it, but the plan would never be to pay for it all on our own either. And in the taxing that they're doing, the flip side of that is the economic development that came with it. So it was also putting out a lot of cash, taking in, putting out. And a vote for this doesn't say, yeah, we're going to do it. Definitely doesn't say we're going to pay for it. It's just the beginning of exploring it. And I was here when we did that vote. I've lived here a long time, Rick. And I wish that it had passed in Kansas City at that point. That would have been so great for us, but it didn't. So we're circling back around and hopefully can get all our ducks in a row to qualify for some of the federal benefits from the grants that were coming out.
Councilmember Saper.
A lot of previous studies have been done on this, and getting a streetcar into North Kansas City without being a part of a package to go further north into Kansas City north, particularly in terms of federal funding, is probably a non-starter. But that said, I see no problem with going ahead and pursuing it, at least talking to them. And I support your resolution.
Councilmember Stewart and Councilmember DeLong.
Yeah, one thing about, they mentioned going north too, Anthony, and the streetcar can't make it up Co-op Hill. It has to be a lift station. There's just not enough power, I guess. I mean, I don't know anything about it, but that's what they said. To go up the Co-op Hill, you'd have to have a lift station where, you know, cables are hooked to the car and they pull them up. And that was in the last survey they did. And I, you know, thinking about depending on federal money, you know, with the stuff they're doing for the virus now, our national debt is now 100%, I think he said, 100% of our annual gross product. And it's going to get worse. So I think the federal money like Kansas City got may not be there for the future. And that's just something to think about. I mean, everybody's got their opinion on it, but, you know, every time the federal government gives money to anybody, they borrow it to do it. So anyway, just another thought.
Councilmember DeLong.
You just get me.
Councilmember Smith.
I move to approve the resolution.
A second.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr, Councilmember Farr,
Yes.
Councilmember DeLong,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart.
No.
I'm sorry, what was that?
No.
Thank you. 7-1, motion carried. Number 13, budget amendment, revised temporary license agreement with Northtown DevCo, resolution number 21-001.
Thank you. At its meeting of December 15th, the City Council approved a revised temporary license agreement with Northtown DevCo for the parking lot north of 18th Avenue, east of Clay and west of Swift. This increased the monthly payment, therefore necessitating a budget amendment as explained in the staff memo, and so a resolution has been prepared accordingly for the council. Councilmember DeLong and then Councilmember Smith.
When do they plan to install this gate? Do we know?
Mr. Barzee, do you have any information about that?
No, I do not. I'm sorry.
Because it seemed like they're in a pretty quick turnaround, but as of the other day, it hadn't been done yet. So I don't know. Just curious. Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong,
No.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yes.
7-1, motion carried. Number 14, approving accounts due and payable by the city through January 3rd, 2021.
First reading.
Okay.
Councilmember Farr? Oh, I'm
Yes,
sorry, Councilmember Clark,
We look alike. Yes.
Councilmember Farr,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong,
I don't know. Look at it.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull, Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through January 1st, 2021.
I move that bill number 7571 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9368.
Again.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through January 1st, 2021.
Thank you. Next item is staff comments. I'll begin with the Assistant City Administrator, Kim Nakahoto.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a quick reminder that if you would like to participate in the First Suburbs Coalition meeting, where the city will be recognized with the Communities for All Ages Gold level, please get with me so I can RSVP you for that event. The event will be Friday, January 15th at 8:30 a.m. and it will be held via Zoom.
Thank you, Kim. And there are just several reports in your packet tonight. Upcoming city items of note: YMCA monthly financial report for November 2020 and the status of city projects and purchases quarterly report. That concludes staff comments. We'll move on to council member comments and begin with Council Member Clark.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm Simon Shekels. I just want to give a shout out to him for the cleanup under the bridge. That was great. It's a great show of what we can do as a community and coming together. And I appreciate his leadership in doing that and getting that squared away, and the other individuals that came to his assistance this past weekend and kind of cleaning up that passageway for pedestrian traffic as we look for more solutions in connecting our city. There was obviously things identified in that area, and I do appreciate the community, showing up. Just a matter of quick communication and showing up and getting that all taken care of and squared away. I'll move on to allow some space for others. Thanks.
Councilmember Farr.
I just want to commend municipal services on taking care of the snow. They did an outstanding job. they probably came by my house at least a dozen times, it seems like. So Pat, give them a big thumbs up for me. Tell them to keep up the good work. Thank you, sir.
Councilmember DeLong.
I just want to add the Equity Inclusion Committee is having their first meeting Thursday, 7 p.m. So definitely wishing them all the best going into their first meeting, and look forward to, hearing what comes out of that. Thank you.
Councilmember Saper.
I would like to piggyback on that, since the Equity and Inclusion Committee is now going online. And I would like to hope that those meetings will be carried Zoom-wise and open to the public to view.
Councilmember Smith.
Happy New Year, everybody. Stay safe out there. That's all from me.
Councilmember Tull.
I just wanted to thank staff for getting everything ready for our work session before our regular session. It was really streamlined and organized and easy to get through it. So that was great. It sounds like you are pulling together price points for us to look at in our next meeting. So I was wondering, since there was a huge range for the linear buffers, if you could see maybe a firmer number on what it would cost for those slightly raised steel bars, if that's possible. And then, yes, equity and inclusion. I'm excited for that to start Thursday. It is online. If you look at the upcoming meetings, it's at 7 o'clock. We're at the same time as the Planning Commission. That's not our every month meeting. We're going to decide that. So I'll get back to everybody to let you know where you can put that on your calendar going forward. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Clevenger.
Yeah. One of my questions was on the Equity and Inclusion Committee. So will we be able to view that meeting later on after the meeting, or not yet? That's a question for staff or
yeah,
whoever.
I guess I can answer. Yeah, so you can view it both live and it'll be recorded.
Okay, excellent. And just I echo Jesse's comments. Happy New Year, and everybody stay safe. Continue the mask up, social distance, all of that. The other question that I had was now that the apartments and the hotels are open, and maybe due to COVID, you can't really do a ribbon cutting or with the cold weather, but I'm wondering if we as a council can get a look at those on the inside, some kind of tour maybe set up with those two new amenities that are in North Kansas City, since we haven't been able to go see them. So that's another question to see if we can do that. And that's it.
We will make contact with the developers of each of those to discuss that with them.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, kudos to the guys removing the snow and treating the streets. I'm glad there's no citations for not doing the sidewalks. I tried. I got a Cadillac of a snow removal, and it wouldn't. I think it turned to ice there on the sidewalks. But anyway, if you want to send hate mail, Zach was somewhere in the 70s that day when we got the storm in his bathing suit running around Mexico. So, and I do have a question. Is the bowling alley closed already?
Our understanding is it's still operating at some level at the present time.
Oh, okay. And I was down at Save-A-Lot today, and the young lady at the cashier said that they're having a name change. Do we know about that?
Gosh, sir, that's the first I've heard of that. We can look into it, but that's nothing we've heard about.
Yeah, and I don't know. I asked her what it was going to be. She said she didn't know. That's all I got. Happy New Year.
Mayor Stila.
Oh, I really believe everything's been said, so let's move on.
Number 18, consideration of a request to hold in recess into an executive session as requested by the city administrator to be held on this date on a real estate matter pursuant to Missouri Revised Statutes, section 610.0212.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yes.
All right, I'll ask everybody to go to the link that was sent to them, and we'll see you in the executive session. Would you all, somebody like to move to adjourn? And
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Third.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Yes.
thank you.